Good evening, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a great evening. Welcome to the 5th episode of On the Ball with your hosts, Daniel Glass, Zach Naon. I guess I've never said our last names before, but there we go. People know. They can stalk us, I guess, now. Hope everyone's having a fantastic day. We've got a real good show today for you guys, as we always do. Looking forward to it. We're going to be talking about kind of all of the things we've kind of talked about before a little bit. So, NFL analysis, NBA finals, MLB playoffs, all that kind of stuff. Just really touching base on all of those things. As we always say, we really do appreciate everyone that's stopped by on YouTube, that's stopped by in the stream to kind of check us out and kind of see what we're about. We're really trying to grow this. Any feedback that you can possibly give us is really appreciated and really helpful for us as we transition this into more of a regular thing. We want to make sure that we're providing content for you guys that you guys really enjoy, that is engaging for you. And we want to, overall, the reason why we're streaming this on Twitch is we really want to provide an experience for you guys different than any other experience out there that we've seen. We want you to be able to interact with us immediately. So, we really appreciate you guys being here. Drop a follow or a subscribe on the YouTube to see episodes that you miss. Also to get caught up on where we are. So that's kind of my introduction. Zach, I'll pass it over to you. Let you kind of talk us in, and then we'll go ahead and start with the MLB if you don't mind.
Yeah. You always get to go first, so you get all the thunder, you get all the words. But
you can steal it too.
we should just jump right into it. Starting off with MLB, which is moving quick. It's moving quick. We're already in some instances into the championship series. So
yeah, which is crazy to me to think that generally it feels like baseball is like their playoffs is like a 3-month stretch, right? Like it's, the NBA is done pretty much middle of June, so it's like the last week of May, like middle of June, and it seems like MLB is just like, oh, let me last forever here, at least that's been my feeling of it.
Yeah.
So but yes, this year's been really quick. I would completely agree with that.
Definitely.
So what have been kind of your takes?
We're looking at it today, obviously Thursday, October 8th. We've got the Rays and Yankees in game 4 here underway. It's currently 2-1 Yankees, but the Rays are up in the series 2-1. The Rays, I've caught a bit of this series. The Rays pitching has stifled that Yankees lineup just enough to tip them into that 2-1 lead. Actually, to be fair, the Rays offense has kept up as well. I think the Yankees, if I can go back a day or two, the Yankees, they put up 4 runs yesterday and 5 runs in game 2. We look at game 1 here. That was the game they won. They put up 9. But the Rays offense is keeping pace with this Yankees offense, and the pitching on the Rays side is doing just enough to put them up 2-1. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is obviously the series to watch, right? If you look on the other side, you've got the San Diego Padres and the Los Angeles Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers just blowing them out of the water. It's not really that surprising to us. I kind of hate. I've got to point something out here. It really upsets me how many Mariners players are on teams that are in the playoffs or doing well in the playoffs. It's just like Mike Zunino, like great catcher, great defensive catcher, not a great hitter, but a great defensive catcher. He's with the Rays right now. I mean, he's struck out 5 times in 3 games, but it's like,
yeah, I saw a tweet. This was a couple days ago. I want to say this maybe it was in the Dodgers series because they got Chris Taylor, an Old Mariner, and I think an Old Mariner reliever was pitching. And then, gosh, there were a couple, but anyway, it was like the pitcher was an ex-Mariner throwing to a guy that was at bat that was an ex-Mariner with Chris Taylor on base, who was an ex-Mariner.
Like, can they just not put it together for us? I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. But going back to the Tampa Bay Yankees, I mean, I think this is really the series to watch. I think there's a lot of excitement here. It kind of is a make or break for us, right? Like I said the Yankees, you said the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, and I think it's the only one. No, that and the Dodgers. The up top of the bracket, we still are perfect on, I think, or relatively perfect on. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I haven't really watched a lot of the games. I've just been following kind of the score lines. I mean, you think the Yankees pull it out tonight, or you think this is going to be a done game?
Let's see, who do we got going? The Rays are running their bullpen starting. I guess I don't know what they call it exactly. A lot of MLB teams are doing this now, where they run out like a long reliever for. Looks like he went an inning and 2/3 today. Usually they don't go more than 2 or 3. And then they just stack these like 1 or 2 inning guys for 9 innings. So you get like 4 or 5 different pitchers in there.
Gotcha.
While the Yankees got the lefty Jordan Montgomery going, pretty solid pitcher. Each of these teams are kind of digging into their depth as far as pitching goes today. And then we'll see what the lineups. It's 2-1 at the moment. See if either lineup can kind of break through on the back end of both these teams pitching.
Is it pretty common for teams to go to that bullpen rotation type of game? I mean, I feel like
playoffs, yeah.
Okay, is it just because games are so close, or I mean, what's the deal behind that? Because I remember when we were kids, like teams would hold 5 or 6 starters, and they were maybe pitchers were just either batters weren't as good back then, or pitchers have gotten better, or batters have gotten better to where like you don't have generally 3-4 pitchers that are really, really good unless you're the Houston Astros.
Yeah, no, a lot of teams are turning to this, especially in the playoffs. It was kind of a revolution. What was this, like 2015 or so, with the Kansas City Royals? They had that dominant bullpen
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
they would just turn to.
Not in Kansas, by the way.
yeah, exactly. But the Rays are actually notorious for kind of taking this to the extreme, and they will start a bullpen pitcher and throw him 2 innings and then stack just like that for the rest of the game. A lot of teams don't take it that far. They'll still have their 3rd, 4th, and 5th starters, but they'll just take them out after 3 or 4 innings, and then they'll start their bullpen stacking. But the Rays are just like, yeah, we don't really want a 4th or 5th starter, so we're just gonna stack bullpen guys, which works in the playoffs because you're only playing a select few amount of games, right? And it's all out sprint to the finish line. Whereas the regular season in a normal year, granted, is 162 games. You can't tax your bullpen like that for 162 games. But in a 5-game playoff series, by all means, you can do it.
So I guess continuing on that, let's kind of talk about the next round. Let's just assume that we're pretty certain the Dodgers are going to get through. They're up 2-0. It's best of 5, right? So they got to win 3 to get through, to stamp their ticket. So let's just say LA Dodgers. I'm pretty confident that they'll get through against the Padres here. So we're looking at a matchup between the Atlanta Braves and the Dodgers. How do you break that down? Where do you think that's going to go?
Yeah, the Braves. I mean, they mash. They can keep up with the Dodgers as far as hitting goes. I think that the Braves have just kind of squeaked by. I want to say they've gotten a little lucky with their pitching as well. They've got Max Fried as their top end guy, but after that, on paper, their pitching does not look that good. And when you got Kyle Wright and Ian Anderson going up against Clayton Kershaw and Walker Buehler, I'm taking the Dodgers.
I mean, it just from looking at scores. I mean, I'm looking at the divisional series. Like Braves gave up 5 runs, you know, 0 runs, and then 0 runs. But the Dodgers have given up. I mean, the same. It appears like it's going to probably be a pitching battle when it comes down to it. Whoever's got the better pitchers is going to be the ones that kind of pull that off. Is what it kind of
Yeah,
looks like to me, at least.
yeah.
So who do you have? So make your prediction. Who do you think the Dodgers get through on that? Or you kind of, since you had
Yeah,
Cincinnati against them originally, do you think the A's can keep up and have a stun?
the Dodgers, that is.
No, the A's or
Or the A's,
sorry,
sorry.
the Braves. The Braves. Sorry, not the A's. The
Braves.
Braves. Do you think
Yeah.
they stun the
Dodgers, Braves.
Dodgers?
It can happen. I mean, it's the MLB playoffs. Baseball as it is already kind of one of those sports where even if you're a dominant team, you can be a hitter and roll over uh if you're a right-handed batter, just roll over a ball to the left side of the infield, but there's that hole between the shortstop and the third baseman, and that little ground ball just squeaks by. Um, you can hit a little blooper into right field and have it drop between the second baseman and the right fielder. Uh, it's one of those sports where it's really hard to take into account the luck factor, which is there for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
So the Braves, they could, but I think on paper their starting rotation isn't as good. Their hitting, you maybe could argue, is better, but I'm just taking the Dodgers. They're the powerhouse in the playoffs.
Which Kershaw are we gonna see? We're gonna...
We saw a pretty decent Kershaw here. What was that, last night?
Yeah,
Wednesday.
I think it was.
Pulling up the box score here.
He was.
6 innings,
Yeah,
three
he was
earned, six
yesterday.
Ks.
He,
Pretty solid quality start there.
yeah. I don't know. I like Clayton Kershaw. I wish we could get him on the Mariners, but I wish we could have every good player on the Mariners.
Yeah, right.
Just turn into the Yankees. Come on, guys. So okay. So going back to the other side, who are you more concerned about? Who would be a tougher matchup for the Astros? I mean, I guess which team which team can the Astros beat, and which one will they lose? Would they lose to?
Yeah,
Because we don't know whether Tampa or the Yankees. I mean, I say the Yankees, you say Tampa, but I mean,
I think we're discounting, the cheating obviously left a bad taste in everyone's mouth, but we're discounting the experience that the Astros have,
yeah,
because they do have experience in the
yeah, for
playoffs
sure.
and in the World Series. And they're a pretty well-rounded team. Their bullpen is probably their weakest link, but they have a sneaky good kind of top 3 starting pitching staff. And their lineup, as we all know, is legit. And George Springer is putting his name up there as one of the best playoff hitters in baseball. I think I want to say it was 17 playoff home runs now, which is like, I think it was
Ridiculous.
climbing into the top 10 all time.
Yeah.
Of playoff home runs. So he's just like beyond clutch.
Yeah.
Whatever he eats during the playoffs.
Well,
it
is the Astros, so it could be steroids. You never know. Not to knock them down much, but I mean, so do you think? I mean, so back kind of the question.
One thing to note, though. Yeah. One thing to note. I guess before I answer your question is, we are getting into, so we're finishing up these 5-game series. Next 2 are going to be 7. So you might see teams' 4th starters, probably not their 5th, but you might see their 5th or their 4th starter trot out there. So it's going to test some of their depth a little more. And the Astros bullpen is their weakest link, and probably one of the worst bullpens in the playoffs. So we're going to be seeing more of those pitchers out there as we're starting to test some of their depth. So that could be a negative for them.
Yeah.
So I'm sticking with the Rays, or the Yankees for that matter, if the Yankees pull off a comeback.
So you don't think there's either the Yankees or the Rays will beat the Astros and be in the World Series?
Yeah.
Okay. I agree with that. I think Tampa and the Yankees. I wish there was a way that they could just be the World Series. It's kind of like those. It's kind of like those seasons. I'm trying to think of which NBA playoffs year that was, but there was one year where we just had like the Heat versus. It wasn't the Heat. It was two teams in the West that was just like, this is the best series we've ever seen. Like, how is it? It was the one that first started the conversation between they should just get rid of. It should just be seeds 1 through 16. There shouldn't be an East and a West in the playoffs. Like, it should just be 1 through 16.
Recent.
I think it was Golden State and
Houston, Golden State.
I think it was actually
Clippers, Houston. Maybe one of those.
No, I think it was Golden State versus the Thunder when they had before Durant went back to or before Durant went not back to but went to the Golden State. I think that's the one that was the one that we were like, man, I wish this was actually the final game.
Yeah, I do remember that. I think Golden State came back from a 3-1 on
that. They came back from a 3-1 on that. Yeah. That's I mean This Tampa Bay Yankees series reminds me a lot of that moment. We'll never see it, but it reminds me a lot of that moment. So you're obviously still sticking with Tampa Bay for your final for your World Series champion. We'll see what happens. We'll probably touch on this next week again. Kind of one more update before, because we should be close to, if not coming up to the World Series by next Thursday, I would assume.
Yeah, championship series will be underway, so we'll be getting there.
All right. Anything else you got on any other points you'd like to make on MLB other than the Milwaukee Brewers have literally the best jerseys in baseball?
Those are good ones. Yeah.
I'm not a Milwaukee Brewer fan, and I want one. Like, it's just like, you did a great job. They look great.
Yeah. A+. No, I think we can move on.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and move over to the NBA Finals. Game 5 tomorrow. Lakers Heat. Lakers up 3-1 in this series. I don't think either one of us are really surprised by that. I think, from my standpoint, I'd say this is over. I still think Miami could pull off a Game 5 victory tomorrow. And we'll see a Game 6, but unless Jimmy Butler's scoring 40-point triple-double for the remainder of these playoffs for the next 3 games, I just don't see how Miami keeps up with the Lakers. I don't see them really having an answer to LeBron. I don't see them really having an answer to, more importantly, to AD. I think AD is just too dominant. And the one thing that everyone was concerned about was AD's health. And he's staying healthy and just dominating.
The one thing is, you're right, they don't really have an answer for AD, but the Heat have obviously won. If you date back 2 games, they won 1 game, and the previous game was pretty close. It was nerve-wracking I'm sure for Laker fans, up until the last few minutes where AD hit the dagger 3. But AD, I want to say he was under 20 points. I believe
he had 22.
22. So I think that 3 actually put him over. The dagger 3 put him over 20. And I think he was under 20.
He had 15 and 4. Yeah, he had 15 and 4.
Yeah. So he's been slowed down. I don't know if that's a product of Heat. I think the game before that he had like 9 shots or something. So the Lakers just, for whatever reason, weren't getting him the ball.
Yeah, the game before that he had 32 points. He was 15 of. Yeah. It was the 15-point game where he was 6 of 9. Yeah.
9 shots. Yeah.
I mean, but go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if it's him getting his own way or the Heat are running something at him that he doesn't like. Watching the game, they do get him on the block there, and the Heat, that is, they quickly double him and basically leave him, the only shot he has is that fadeaway baseline jumper. which is a tough shot. I mean, he makes it more often than not, but it's a tough shot. He's not getting any easy buckets. He's not the greatest passer out of the post either.
Yeah.
And you add to that the Lakers don't, they shoot the three decently, but they're not, they're not like Golden State. They're not like Houston where they rely on those threes. And I think that's keeping the Heat close in these games.
Yeah.
AD slowing down, not being able to get it out of the double in the post, and then the Lakers just not knocking down open threes off that double team. It's keeping these games close, which is a little nerve wracking. But then I think the difference, it's LeBron. LeBron's been the difference, and that's why they're up 3-1.
I mean, he's got 28, 25, and 33 in the last 3 games. I mean, it's everyone wants to talk about LeBron being Father Time coming and taking over LeBron, right? Everyone wants to talk about that. They want to talk about how he's not going to be there much longer and how it looks like he's lost a step. But I really do think, and I think I said this, what was it, 2 weeks ago? I think it is important to note that he wanted AD because he knew AD could carry the load a little bit like Dwayne Wade did. I mean, we're seeing the same thing that we saw with the Heat in a sense. There's just no number 3. But with the Heat, we saw Dwayne Wade or Bosh take over and let LeBron rest, and then LeBron kicked in the afterburners, and it's just like, well, it's over, guys. We're done, and that's what it kind of feels like LeBron is doing here. I mean, he's almost averaged a triple double the last 3 games. I mean, it really is
it's a
crazy.
very top heavy approach, but when you got probably, ask anyone, but I would say probably number 1 and number 3 as far as top players in the NBA, you can go with the top heavy approach. You don't need those role player guys to step up and get you 15, 18
Wait,
points.
who are you putting in between LeBron and, because you just said AD is the 3rd best player in the league, and that's there's a lot of people. You just opened a bag of worms, Zach.
Some wiggle room there.
Wiggle room. There's only one spot there.
Well, it's open to argument from other people. I didn't want to say 1 and 2 and sound like a Laker fanboy, but gosh, you could have Steph Curry there. Giannis, James Harden, or maybe arguably, I don't know.
Kawhi. I think Kawhi, personally, Kawhi is a little overrated. I think he and Paul George, although you got to give it to Doc Rivers, he got away from the guy that cheated on his daughter with a stripper. Sorry, Paul George, but bro, like, what are you doing? Like, knew Doc Rivers wasn't made out for the Clippers as soon as they signed or traded for Paul George. Knew that was a bad decision, but
yeah. Anyway, I'm leaving 1 and 3. I'm open to debate.
Well, I think
you can put a lot of guys in there.
I think you definitely have one of 3 greatest of all time players in the league. I personally, I mean, I don't know how it stacks up for you, but I think personally, best overall player is Michael Jordan, hands down, in my opinion. Best physical specimen, LeBron James, hands down, and probably the best shooter. And technically gifted is Kobe.
Would you say the best overall? Because those were your words for MJ. Overall makes me think defense, passing, rebounding, scoring.
If
so
I'm starting on,
would you say just like the to me MJ is the greatest of all time. But I don't know if I'd specify it as overall. I'd specify it as like just that he's on
a different level than everyone else.
Yeah.
Period. Everyone else, I mean, think about the time in which he played. I personally think that time was way more physical than what we're currently seeing. The fouls were way harder back then. So for him that's what I mean overall the best. He was the best technically gifted in my opinion and the best physical. Like,
okay.
He may
From
not
like
be
a physical standpoint.
He may not be number 1 in most physically gifted and most technically talented, but he's a number 2 in both. So if Kobe is the best physical, or technically, he's like lower on the physical aspect of it, whereas LeBron is the top physical and he's lower on the technical side of it. MJ is 2 and 2, which gives him theoretically more points. I think that's where it comes from for me, and why I think and why I make the argument that MJ is the best player of all time is because
he is.
I mean, Wilt Chamberlain, great player too, but like different era. There was no one that competed with Wilt. Like he was bigger than everybody else.
Kareem up there is up there for me.
Yeah.
But to me, LeBron, like, just when you look at every aspect of what goes into a basketball game, I'm sure people have heard stories of LeBron recalling plays from the second quarter of a game and post-game interviews in detail that you would think someone with like a photographic memory would have.
Yeah.
So just like basketball IQ, passing ability is the thing with LeBron for me that really no one has from his position and his size. I mean, other than maybe Magic, you don't see that from anyone other than like a 6'1" point guard.
Well, yeah,
so that's what's really special to me.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I think that he's the quote unquote greatest of all time that wasn't the ball hog, in a sense. Like I think you and I kind of talked about this in the past that I kind of viewed him as he isn't really the guy that wants to take the last shot. The guy that wants to take the last shot is whoever is open, whoever he can pass the ball to that's open.
Yeah, which is a blessing and a curse because you get the MJ fanboys who are like, yeah, he doesn't hit all the game-winning shots. And he's like, well, he finds the open guy, and then you get a high percentage shot at least.
Well, and then you pass it to someone like Rajon Rondo, and he brings it off the backboard.
Yeah.
But for every Rajon Rondo, you've got, a Ray Allen and a Kyrie Irving 3 made. So, yeah, I think like I said, I think the Lakers have this. I don't think the Heat have what it takes.
Yeah. To touch on just real quick before we move on to the NFL, we got to touch on the Heat injuries. Just obviously they're not full strength. It's messing with the rotations.
Yeah.
Tyler Hero's got to move into the starting lineup. That messes with their first rotation off the bench, first option off the bench as a bench scorer.
Yeah.
So they're making it work with kind of the situation there.
I think Dragic has entitled himself to the fans of Miami forever with the fact that he's practicing and trying to get back injured. I don't understand. I mean, he's late in his career. I get it. He doesn't want to miss the opportunity to make that difference, but
he's got torn plantar fascia on the bottom of his foot. I mean, if any of you have had plantar fasciitis,
I've had that.
You can barely walk. Now just imagine that being torn.
How many shots is he getting? How many shots is he getting in his foot? And please make sure that it's not the Chargers medical doctor that's doing it. Next thing you know, he's supposed to get a shot in his foot. He has a punctured lung. What? How does that work?
Yeah.
But
no.
We'll go ahead. Heading over to the NFL. You and I kind of talked about this, kind of 2 different ways of. Actually, before we get to that, if there's any questions in the chat, I do see a couple people, not chatting, but in the chat at least. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. We'll be happy to answer those as we get to them. Obviously, again, we want to be engaged with you guys. We want this to be a good and unique experience for all of you. That's why we're streaming it on Twitch. That's why we're here. And we just have fun doing it. At least I do. I don't know. Zach may think I talk too much, and if he does, I'll mute my ears so he can tell you all the bad stuff. But yeah, so if you have questions, just drop them in chat. We'll be happy to answer them. And yeah, appreciate it, guys. So moving over to the NFL, I really need to quit saying by the way. So moving over to the NFL, we did this kind of 2 different ways this week. Zach and I we didn't really talk a whole lot about it like we have in weeks prior. So I kind of did my top 5, and Zach and Zach did scores, basically whatever games stuck out to him. So just to kind of run down my top 5, we'll kind of run through mine, Zach, and if you have any comments on it, go ahead and jump in, talk about it, and then we'll kind of talk about anything that I kind of missed from that standpoint. So if that sounds good to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So my number 5, and Michael, this actually touches on what you're saying in chat, is the Bills are 4-0. I think at the beginning of the season when we did the predictions, I think you and I both said that the Bills were going to be the better team in this division. I'm not sure either one of us would have predicted them going 4-0. I don't think I did. I don't think I predicted them going 4-0. I don't even think Madden predicted them going 4-0, but I'll tell you what, Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen are playing well together. Last game he had 11 targets. He had 8 catches on 11 targets for 67 yards, no touchdowns. But Josh Allen through 4 games has had a 71% completion rating, 3 TDs per game average, 332 yards per game, and has only had 1 interception in 4 games. He's been sacked 9 times, so that's a relatively high number. But no one is expecting the Bills' offensive line to be great. So 9 is actually probably pretty good. It's probably well above the average in the NFL. And I just think so. My biggest surprise is just the Bills going 4-0. I don't think that we would have expected the Bills to go 4-0 in their first 4 games. And I'm trying to look at their schedule real quick to see who they played. But I'm pretty sure they played. And it looks like they'll also remain 4-0, by the way, because it appears that game with the Titans is going to be rescheduled because of COVID, and we'll get to that a little bit later.
It looks like they're going to be playing on Tuesday.
Are they? Oh, yeah. Okay, so it looks like they will be. Yeah, so the Bills and the Raiders, so they beat the Raiders, the Rams, and the Dolphins. We kind of predicted the Dolphins wouldn't be good. They beat the Jets, but the Jets are horrible. But to beat the Rams and the Raiders, I figured they'd probably lose to the Rams. Is where mine was on that. So to see them 4-0, that's my big surprise after week 4 in the NFL. My 5th surprise in the NFL. Moving up the list, number 4 is how many head coaches should be on the hot seat or should be fired. So obviously after Sunday's game, we saw Bill O'Brien fired, which no surprise there. Actually, I'm kind of upset about it because now Monkey, one of our friends online, is going to have a new head coach that maybe will do something, which sucks for the Colts. Romeo Cromwell,
interim, right?
Romeo Cromwell, who was with the Chiefs, he's there. I think we're also potentially, unless he can turn it around, I think Matt Patricia will be gone in a couple weeks, which means there's 2 from the Bill Belichick tree that have failed again. Not a great record if you're from the Bill Belichick tree. Dan Quinn at Atlanta, they're 0-4. Probably can see them going away. Doug Marrone, same with him with the Jags. I don't think he's longed for this world with the Jags. Adam Gase should have been fired last year. He lost with the Dolphins. I don't understand how he got the job with the with the Jets. And the big question that I have is they just hired him, but Joe Judge with the Giants, they just hired him back in last year. Is he on the hot seat? Giants are 0-4.
Yeah.
Not really been competitive. They lost Barkley. They don't really have much on that team. Do they give him multiple years, or do they become basically the Browns and start getting a new head coach every other year?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you answer that.
To touch on the first one, and probably the most overdue head
Bill
coach
O'Brien.
firing is Bill O'Brien. I mean, the guy's got so much talent on that team and one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And if you watch that game, I saw a post-game press conference clip from Bill O'Brien, and he had the stat sheet, the paper in front of him, kind of looked down at it, and he was like, man, we ran the ball 26 times. That's not good enough. We got to run the ball more. We got to be more efficient on the ground. You ran the ball 26 times.
How many more times do you want to run it?
That's a lot. And you got Deshaun Watson. And it's a passing league where you got Dak Prescott throwing 58 passes for 502 yards, Russell Wilson throwing 5 touchdowns a game. You don't win by running the ball 30 plus times.
Yeah, for sure.
Those days are long gone unless you got, the Legion of Boom and Marshawn Lynch. You're not going to win with defense and 35 rushes a game. So you got to let Deshaun Watson loose. I know he's working with a new receiving corps, but that to me was the most obvious head coach firing. They got to switch up that offense, get something from their defense, and try and win some games.
Yeah, I also saw a tweet from I want to say it was Adam Schefter, but I'm not entirely certain on that. But I saw a tweet that said the Texans have the biggest payroll in the NFL and no first or second round pick next year.
Did see that.
And they're 0-4. Yeah. No surprise there. I mean, it just I'm weary of teams that just think going into free agency they can fix all their problems. And the reason I am is the 2010 Eagles defense with Nnamdi Asomugha and all of those.
What was the team name? Like Vince Young gave him or something, or one of those, like the super team. There was a term coined by one of the players on that team.
The dream team that wasn't declared them the dream team.
Dream team.
Yeah, is what and it was the 2011 Eagles. And I mean, if you remember in that there's
a lot. Yeah.
They added so many players on defense. I mean, Nnamdi Asomugha, Isaiah Trufant, they added Philip Hunt, who no one really knows, Jason Babin, Rodney Brown, Ryan Harris, Donald Lee, Evan Mathis, Jared Page, like Vince Young. There were so many players that they added onto that roster, and like, this is what it's going to be. This is how it's going to go. Hey, Cletus, thank you so much for 9 months. It's crazy to think that you've been a sub for 9 months. That is actually really, really crazy, but I appreciate that. And this will be in the YouTube video now. But like, they signed Donald Lee, Evan Mathis, all of these great players that, Ronnie Brown too. They were supposed to be great. So I always am concerned with teams that go all out in free agencies. I mean, the Colts did it under Ryan Grigson when we went and signed Frank Gore and he played for the Texans, Andre Johnson. We had big signings here that we spent a ton of money on, and they did nothing. I mean, Frank Gore had good seasons, but they did nothing.
The NFL seems to be a lot, maybe more than any other sport, a lot about value. Like, I just keep thinking back, and maybe it's because I'm exposed to the Seahawks being in Seattle, but the Seahawks, when they had they're still on the run, but that massive run with the great teams. I mean, they had like Richard Sherman, Bobby Wagner, these guys on like rookie contracts.
Yeah.
I feel like, you get that one or two signings, you lock down your franchise quarterback, and then you find value in the draft, and that's where you hit big. I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. So in order to move forward a little bit, because we're running on the 42-minute mark, but which I'm fine. We got time. But Chargers and Bucks are my number 3 surprise best. It's hard to not say this. I think Justin Herbert's the real deal. I mean, dude, 20 for 25 for 290 yards, 3 TDs, and 1 interception. The Bucks defense is not the greatest in the league, right? But hey, you got to give them something. That they played really well there, and it was all on Justin Herbert's back, and I don't believe they won that game, but at the same time,
Close.
it was a close game, and Tom Brady threw for 369 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 TD. And Ronald Jones had, I believe it was like 111 yards or something ridiculous like that in the absence of Fournette. So it'll be fun to watch. I think Justin Herbert is going to be a great. I think the Chargers have lucked out. They've already named him the starter. Rip Tyrod Taylor. Start maybe potentially suing that doctor because it looks like your starting career in LA is over. I hope I didn't call them the San Diego Chargers. But
It'll always be the San Diego Chargers.
yeah, those powder blue jerseys, San Diego Chargers, man. But so that's there. Moving up the list, the Browns at number 2. The Browns just completely dismantling the defense. There wasn't much defense in this game, which is a little surprising to me because the Browns have a lot of good players on defense, but there was a total of 1,000 yards, over 1,000 yards this game of offense, with Cleveland having 307 yards rushing. Again, Cowboys fans are let down by their team. The Cowboys should be the best team in this division, and as I think you'll probably point out, what's the NFC East breakdown right now?
It's ugly. I think what are they? Washington.
The Eagles are 1-2-1.
Philly's leading. Yeah.
Washington's 1-3.
And
Cowboys 1-3. And the Giants are 0-4.
0-4. Yeah.
I don't remember if we said that they were the worst. I think I need to go watch episode 1 back and see if we said that they're the worst division in football. And if we didn't, we need to amend our prediction and point out that they're the worst division in football, period. I can't think of a worse division. This is just pitiful. One of these teams that started 1-3 or 1-2-1 is going to be in the playoffs. And not only in the playoffs, they're going to have a home game in the playoffs. That's just... I hope one of these teams turns it around, and I hope the Eagles or someone end like 11 and 13 and 3 or 12 and 4. Like, I hope someone turns it around, because if they don't, that's just that's just awful. That is just pitiful. So that's theirs. And then my number 1 is just COVID-19. This team didn't even play week 4. They had a bye week, but the Titans, they're up to 21 players and staff total that have been affected by it. The question is, should they be considered forfeit? Should they consider forfeiting a game? And it appears they're going to be playing it on Tuesday, but at what point does the NFL say, you guys are kind of ridiculous here. You aren't following protocols the way that you should, and we're going to penalize you. I mean, I think my biggest argument for them forfeiting a game is the fact that some of their players were practicing at a local high school. You have COVID-19 on your roster, and you are not, and your facility is closed, and you're practicing on a high school at a high school. That just doesn't seem wise, smart, safe, whatever you want to put in.
To play kind of devil's advocate, though, if you're an NFL team and these cases have been building slowly. They started with, I think, a few, and then they were over 10, and now they're over 20. But if you're a team and you hear, okay, 2 cases, I tested negative today, right? And you have a game in 5 days where you have to play the most brutal sport that there is, and perform at an elite level. I'm not just going to sit on the couch and detrain for 5 days until Sunday hits and then go play an NFL game. They gotta get out and do something. And you can't throw and catch footballs in your living room unless you got a huge living room.
Well, I mean, some of those players make quite a bit of money. I mean, let's be real here.
but I think in that sense, my question would be, what else would they do? I mean, if okay, maybe maybe they should have given it another day, got another negative test, and then got the all clear. But if you're saying if there's one positive case on your team and everyone has to sit on their couch for 4 days and detrain, and then if you're clear, you got to wake up the next day and play on Sunday with just doing Zoom meetings all week. I don't think that's safe for the players from
Probably
an
not.
injury and health standpoint to just hop up off the couch and play an NFL game.
Yeah,
So
it's probably
it's
not.
a tricky situation. I don't really know. Obviously, the NFL has got to come up with some standards on how to handle this.
And it appears that they are changing their. I've read a. I saw an article today that they were. Let's see here. There was some rules that the league were. I read something about league postponement. But there was like new guidelines that they were putting out potentially to try and do that. And also the Patriot, or not the Patriots chief, I think there's another Patriots game. I think another Patriots game is being postponed too. I think I saw that.
They are moving to early Monday, I believe.
Yeah.
Were they a Sunday
With the Broncos.
game?
Yeah, they were a 4:25 on Sunday game. So that game has been moved as well. So, I mean, it's just an interesting time in which we live. That's interesting.
I feel for these players too. If any of you follow Trevor Bauer on YouTube, his channel, he did a vlog insight on the COVID season as a MLB pitcher, and there was an instance the Reds actually had an outbreak, and there was a day on one of those vlogs where Trevor was scheduled to pitch, and basically the day before, these players have routines. They have conditioning, they have practice, they have treatment. It's round the clock, and when you just get thrown this big question mark of are we going to play this week? Are we going to play Sunday? Are we going to play Monday? Are we going to play Tuesday? Which is they're now doing Tuesday. Have we ever had NFL games on Tuesday? Right.
I want to say we probably have, but it was probably in like the 1930s.
Yeah. the point being is these players all have routines, and when you're throwing these things off, on top of that, telling them that they got to sit on their couch, it's going to hurt the product that goes out on the field eventually when these teams do play. So there needs to be some sort of standard and more kind of a more streamlined, if a positive test happens, this is what we're going to do kind of scenario, which it's complicated. I don't have the answer. It doesn't look like the NFL has the answer yet, but hopefully they're working on it.
Okay, did I miss anything? It appears that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are ahead of the Chicago Bears 10-0 as we stand right now. I really hope Mike Evans is actually playing. I did not check that, and he is on my fantasy team. Does he have a catch? Oh, he does have a catch. Okay, he's playing, but it's only for 2 yards, so hopefully he didn't hurt himself. Yeah, so have you did you have any games from last week that you kind of stuck out in your mind?
No, I think we basically touched on it all. I mean, the big one is COVID. It's not easy to make up NFL games like it is in the NFL or in MLB, where you can do double headers. You can't make a team play on Thursday and then Sunday because they had a COVID week that they couldn't play a game. So
why not? They should man up. I'm just kidding.
It's gonna get really interesting.
Yeah.
It already is, but it's going to get really interesting if we keep seeing these cases.
So Michael actually did also ask a question in the chat. Cletus said that the Browns game, he watched the Browns game and it was a fantastic game. I would say it's a fantastic game if you like offense. I also personally like it. It's hard for me to root for any team in that because I like when the Browns lose, just because I like to make fun of the Browns, and I definitely like it more though when Dallas loses because Dallas fans are some of the worst fans to listen to when they're winning. So there's that. And then Michael says, so the Bears are only good when they play a subpar team. Care to talk on that at all, Zach? I mean, we know my bias. I thought it was a really good game. The Bears versus Colts.
Yeah.
Defense, Colts defense stacked up again. Played well. Right now they're playing against the Patriots. They're down 10-0 beginning of the second quarter. They beat the Giants, they beat the Lions, and they came back to beat the Falcons. I will say that I think they should have stuck with Mitchell Trubisky. Even though he had a bad game against the Falcons, you let Foles come in. We have seen time and time again that Foles is not a starting quarterback in this league. The pressure of being a starting quarterback is not, he can't handle it. I think the playoffs when he was with the Eagles was a different story because of the fact that he was never going to be the starter after that season. But when he was the guy, he's only had one really good season when he was the guy, and that was the first time he was in Philly. So, it appears that Nick Foles is starting again tonight. He's 5 of 9 for 60 yards and 1 interception. That pretty much sums it up for them. I mean, it's
not a decision I'd like to be making between Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky every week.
That's true. So we've got next week's games. So this week's games, week 5. Just kind of running down the schedule. We got Bucks and Bears right now. I'll probably go check that game out though. Although I think it's going to be probably a fairly easy game for the Bucks. You got Rams versus Washington. Not sure that's really going to be one to watch. Eagles and Steelers. Hey, by the way, I'd just like to point out the Steelers are 3-0. I told you where they were going to be good. They have pulled it off so far. Just saying. Cardinals versus Jets. Cardinals aren't as good as I thought they would be. 1. 2, they're playing the Jets. They better win that game. If they don't, they might as well just quit the whole season. Chiefs Raiders. I think that's going to be a good game. I think that's going to be one of the games to watch on Sunday afternoon, Sunday morning for you, simply because Chiefs didn't really play that well against the Patriots, in my opinion. I thought the Patriots defense played really, really well against the Chiefs, or the Chiefs offense just didn't play very well until they got that score up. If the Patriots would have had Cam Newton, I think that game would have been a lot closer. I think it would have been come down to the last possession. So with the Raiders having Derek Carr, a healthy running back, and a healthy defense, I think it's going to be it's going to be really an interesting game. That's one I'm definitely going to watch. Jaguars Texans, snooze fest. Bengals Ravens, that should be an easy win for the Ravens. Panthers Falcons, that could be a hard game. Falcon could that be their first win of the season? My favorite one. I'm really, really rooting for the Giants here. Giants versus Cowboys. Tim the Tatman, who's on Twitch, is a huge Cowboys fan, and today he recorded a video while he was live on stream that he put on TikTok and Twitter and Instagram, and he said the Cowboys are going to beat the Giants. And I would really, really just love for the Giants to just beat the crap out of the Cowboys. That would be hilarious. That would be great. You confident about your Vikings? Or I mean your Seahawks versus the Vikings?
Yeah, Sunday night. Minnesota hasn't looked that good, although it's kind of been because Kirk Cousins hasn't been able to keep pace on the offensive side, and Seattle's defense is giving up. I think I saw today they were like the 4th or 5th worst passing offense, and they're going to be out Jamal Adams again. So
yeah, the Seahawks defense is ranked 32nd.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to put up probably, I'll say like 28, 31 points, win that game, which I think we can.
I would definitely agree with you. I think that Kirk Cousins has not played up to his billing this year. I think Dalvin
Yeah.
Cooks is having a great year. Pay the man. I think they already gave him a contract extension, but I mean, I think Dalvin Cooks. I wanted the Colts to draft him 2 seasons ago. I just think he's 2 or 3. It might have been 3 seasons ago, 3 years ago. But yeah, I think the Seahawks have that, and it'll be an interesting games. Colts versus Browns in Cleveland at 4:25. I think that's going to be a good game. I think the Colts have the better defense, and I think we have the better offense. So I think we'll pull that one out. It'll be interesting to see how the Chargers play in the dome of the Saints. Maybe we get Michael Thomas back, and then Bills versus Titans will be an interesting game for sure as well. So yeah, that's week 5 of the NFL. I don't know if people like that take, but I like going through the schedule, and maybe we change that up next time and we just talk about the games that we're most interested in, like the Colts game. We know that's your most important one for you.
Yeah, I'll be watching that one.
Alrighty. Well, anything else that you've got on any of the 3 sports that we've talked about?
No, just like you said, interesting times. We'll see what the NFL does here in the next week or two. Baseball's got their little postseason bubble going, and NBA will be probably over by the next time we see you guys.
Any more questions in the chat before we sign off? Have you ever seen the Bueller? Someone will say like Bueller 3 times and then the meeting will be over.
Yeah.
One of my former bosses used to always do that. He's a huge Cleveland Browns fan. And I think
going once.
Yeah, going once, going twice. All right, guys. So again, we'd just like to thank you guys so much for watching. Maybe we'll let Zach do the introduction next week. Yeah, I think we're gonna let him do the introduction next week, since I always get to steal the thunder. But guys, we want to thank you again so much for being here. We really do appreciate all the support we're getting. The YouTube video will be live. If you missed any part of the show or just want to watch it again, check it out on YouTube. Please also, if you have comments, if you have concerns, comments, things that you'd like to see us do, topics you'd like to see us talk about on this, please drop a comment over on YouTube. Let us know. We read those. We check those regularly. We want to know what you guys want to hear and what you guys want to see, because we want to engage with you guys. So really do appreciate it. Yes, the Colts will really go 13-3 with that defense, Ted. I told you they would. Before I let us go, thank you again. Zach, go ahead with any last comments.
No, we're just appreciate the support, and we're signing out.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, and we will see you guys next time.